Welcome, welcome. This is the day after where we talk Oregon sports and Oregon football. The day after the game, we're going to give just an alumni and fans perspective of the game. I'm by all means not a professional commentator or analyst or anything like that, just a regular fan like everybody else. We're just going to give my thoughts, and then at the very end, I'm going to give my prediction for either the week, a season, situation, but we're going to do a prediction after every one. So stay tuned, see what you get. All right, so Oregon played Portland State. And of that Portland State game, that score was 81-7. And let's be honest, Portland State is a subdivision team. This is what we all expected to happen. Oregon did, however, put up a record number of points. I believe that's the most points in modern era for Oregon football. Whatever that means, I don't know. That's just kind of what they were saying. So let's go ahead and take a look here. So I can't show highlights because it'll get copyright striked and they'll take it down and whatever. So I haven't figured out how to do that part. So with that, we're just going to kind of talk about it. I mean, it was just an Oregon show, but let's take a look. You had Bo Nix with 23 of 27, 287 yards, 3 TDs. That's very respectable for a quarterback. With the subdivision team, I would have liked to seen this completion attempt ratio a little higher. This was the first game, but it was okay. Bo Nix did everything Bo Nix had to do. There were no poor throws that I saw. I didn't see him put the ball in danger one time, so that was great decision making by his part. We finally got to see some backup QBs play. This is something Oregon fans had been able to had been looking forward to for a long time. So last year we didn't get to see much of Ty, and when we did, I wasn't impressed. It was in garbage time, and I didn't feel like they ever gave him a chance. This time he came out, went 7-8, 81 yards, 1 touchdown. He looked sharp. His decision making looked good. His arm looked good, so I was very happy to see that. That's more what we had hoped from the 5-star Ty Thompson. So another quarterback we got to see was Austin Novosad. He came out, went 3 for 3, had a touchdown pass, but they said the receiver stepped out right at the end as he dove. But it was good to see, these other guys getting some reps and protecting Bo Nix. So that was the other aspect of that. So as for rushing, I don't know what you can say about this. Oregon embarrassment of riches in the running back. We literally showed our 5th string quarterback, and he was even impressive. So you have Bucky Irving takes 4 carries for 119 yards, 2 touchdowns. He had a long of 56. That 56-yarder was on a 4th and 1 play. He broke it to the outside and just went to town. You have Jordan James, was technically the 3rd string quarterback because Whittington didn't play this week for whatever reason. Dan Lanning didn't say much about it other than he's not going to talk about players that didn't play and that Whittington's doing everything he's supposed to be doing. So whatever. So James went 10 carries, 86 yards, 3 TDs, along a 36. He had a bunch of short yardage plays. The touchdowns were inside the 10. But he was very impressive, very hard to bring down, very fast, hit the hole. He has great vision. He's going to be the next thing when Bucky and Whittingham are gone. Dante Dowling and Jaden Lamar, both freshmen, not redshirts, but both freshman running backs. Both had 8 carries, 55 yards, 51 yards. Both had a TD, 13 and 17. They were very comparable. They looked very good. They looked very strong. So I'm excited to see them in later versions of the Oregon offense. You have Ty Thompson takes 2 scampers for 25 yards. And then Trayshawn Holden, Gary Bryant, both wide receivers, take a little rush. So 348 rushing yards as a team, 7 TDs. That's very impressive. But here's something that hasn't been done since 2014 for the Oregon receivers, and that is having 2 100-yard receivers at Oregon in a same game. I don't think it's happened since 2014. That's quite a while ago. But you had Troy Franklin, which everybody knew he was going to be the guy, he came in and showed nothing but being the guy. And then you had Gary Bryant Jr., that was a transfer from USC. He came in, did very well, caught the balls he was supposed to catch. But look at this: 7 receptions for 106 yards, 2 TDs. 7 receptions for 100 yards, 2 TDs. So both of those guys had 7 for over 100. That's looking pretty good. He has Tez Johnson, a transfer in also. He had 3 receptions for 41 yards. So you're talking, what, 13 yards a catch? If you had given him 7 carries, I'm thinking, or 7 receptions, I'm thinking he might have also been over 100 yards. He had a long of 28. Unfortunately, they didn't get him a TD, but that will be coming. You got Bucky Irvington with 3 receptions for 30 yards. Terrence Ferguson, the tight end, had 3 receptions for 26 yards. He looked really good. Good to see him out there. Patrick Herbert got 1 reception for 23 yards. He looked good. And just look at all these different. He had 33 receptions for all these different receivers. That's just an embarrassment of offensive power. I don't know. I don't see a lot of teams stopping Oregon. There's just too many options on here. Unless Bo Nix has a really bad day, I don't see Oregon being held under 30 points by any team. But that brings us to the other side of this game. Is Portland State had 148 rushing yards and 52 passing yards, and they scored on their opening possession. So I very much expected the game to go like this. I did not think Oregon would put up 81 points. I figured Oregon would stop somewhere in the 60s with the backups, but even the backups were able to score. But you're talking about a FCS level team with Portland State, and nothing against them, but they just don't have the size and athletes to compete with a team like Oregon. Now, the problem with that is Oregon's glaring problem last year wasn't offense. Oregon's glaring problem last year was defense. And so Oregon letting Portland State walk right down the field in their opening possession wasn't a great look. However, they did clamp down later, but there was 2 things that I didn't really see. No forced turnovers and no interceptions, no forced turnovers. That includes fumbles or interceptions. They did have the 1 fumble, but that was on the kick return, and I don't think that was a forced error. I think that was just an error on the Portland State that Oregon recovered. Now, there was, like I said, there was no forced turnovers and there was no sacks. And against an FCS level team, I expected there be a lot more pressure on the quarterback. And I expected those guys to get through there to be able to get at least 1 sack in the game. I didn't see any of those. And I'm not sure that's a good look for the Oregon defense, because that was one of the things that they had problems last year. You have Williams at USC, you have Rising at Utah, and you have Penix at Washington, and all 3 of those are dark horse. Well, all 3 of those are in the running for Heisman. The other 2 are dark horses. Williams is expected to win it again, but if you can't get pressure on the quarterback, that's not good for Oregon in those games, and we'll have to see how that plays out later. Oregon does go to Texas Tech here this coming weekend, so that's going to be a big show for this defense that they can stop teams on offense and that they can get pressure on the quarterback. If they can't get pressure on the quarterback this year, it's going to be another long year, and that's going to be rough because Oregon's going to have to depend on their offense to outscore teams, and that's going to be a tall order against a couple of these teams in the Pac-12 who can just flat put up points. So, my thoughts on the Oregon game overall, I think Oregon did exactly what they had to do. They had to come out and show that they could score points. They had to come out and show that they would at least stop the big plays. They did that, but like I said, there's still, for me, questions on that Oregon defense, if that Oregon defense can stand up to those big offensive teams that we're going to be playing. So, okay. So let's talk about the Pac-12 a little bit. The Pac-12 looks like it's going to go undefeated this week. The only big game that was played that shouldn't have, that a Pac-12 team shouldn't have won was the Colorado TCU game. TCU is ranked number 17. And again, this is the preseason ranking. I don't put a lot of weight into that early in the year. I like to see 3 or 4 games in before they really start ranking teams. However, that's not the way our current environment is. So TCU is ranked number 17. Colorado went to TCU and outplayed TCU and won 45-42. Now, everybody thinks, Prime, Deion Sanders has got this already wrapped up. They're already contenders. They're going to contend for the Pac-12, and they're going to do this, and they're going to do that, and let's pump the brakes on that. Just slow down a minute. Nobody knows how good TCU is. Obviously, TCU is not the team that played last year in the playoffs and stuff. So, we don't know how good they're going to be. There's no way to tell how good Colorado actually is right now. But so I'm gonna go ahead and put a prediction out there because when I look at Colorado's this game, right, is they were 38 for 47 in passing, which is fine. They had 510 passing yards. That's a lot. They had 4 touchdowns, so that stat looks pretty good. But then when you come down here and your team having 55 rushing yards and the quarterback having negative 32 yards, that's not a great look. So to have 34 rushes and 55 yards, and 2 of those must have been on the goal line to get the 2 TDs, I don't see that holding up to regular teams. If you can't run the ball and all you're going to do is pass, sure, that's going to work for you the most part, but that's going to look an awful lot like the Washington State teams. They'll be good against some teams, and then they'll falter against other teams. And so here's my prediction for Colorado is by the end of September, they will be under 500 for a record. And that's what my prediction is right now, is they will be under 500 by the end of September. So we'll check back with that prediction and see how that goes. But for now, Colorado, hey, they got their first win. They went to TCU and won on the road, and that's a big step for where they were last year, having only won 1 game. So it is a step in the right direction, but let's pump our brakes if Prime has Colorado back to contention with anything else. I'm predicting they will be under 500 by the end of this month. So, yeah, Oregon did what they had to do. I'm still not sold on the defense. The defense did look better. They did make a bunch of plays, but let's see how they do against Texas Tech. Let's see if they can get pressure on that quarterback. Let's see if they can register a sack, and let's see if they can hold that team down. And now Oregon should win that game. Texas Tech lost to Wyoming at Wyoming. They did put up a bunch of points, but most of those points were in the late part of the game and in overtime. Otherwise they scored early, and then they kind of didn't do anything through the second and third quarter. And if you can't keep up with Oregon through 4 quarters, then you're not going to win. So I expect Oregon to win that game by probably 21 points or more. But the question will be, can Oregon get some sacks? Can Oregon put pressure on that quarterback? And can Oregon create turnovers? They're going to have to start creating turnovers and getting sacks, or it's going to be tough against these other teams that can flat out score. So with that, we're going to get out of here. Thank you so much for joining me. I really appreciate it. We'll be doing this every Sunday throughout the year. And yeah, thank you for watching the Day After podcast. Later on.